Welcome to the Longevity Protocol with Dr. Cristina Bosch and Dr. John A. Robinson. We'll be your guides to uncovering the secrets to optimal health, better sex, and happiness. From debunking aging myths to exploring the science behind what it means to live the Longevity Protocol, we'll dive into a wide range of topics. So, get ready for an exhilarating journey in what it means to live well and feel your very best at any age. Who's healthier, men or women, and who gets better medical care and why?
Okay.
So that's what we're going to talk about today. The differences between men and women as it relates to health and medical care, how each gender views their health and their illnesses. That's always interesting. Who gets diagnosed more, men or women, and why? And then when we delve into the history of the medical diagnosis and the health issues for women particularly, it's going to lead us into how that relates to sex. Great, right? And even the invention of the vibrator.
Yeah. I mean, all roads lead back to sex.
Not all roads lead back to the vibrator, but it's going to. It's going to in this episode.
That is funny. And it is going to. All right, cool. Let's get into it. Love it.
Well, let's start with guys. It's maybe a little more straightforward than women.
Poor guys.
Yeah, it's kind of, yeah. It's a little bit of a wreck for guys in a lot of ways. And that's something we've definitely seen practicing for so many years. Guys are just different.
I know.
You know?
But it is getting better.
It is.
Well, what's getting better. So basically, guys get the short stick.
They do. They don't live as long.
No.
Globally, the average life expectancy for women is 73.8 years.
Right.
For guys, it's 68.4.
I mean, that's a lot. Like, I think about widows.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, the guy died, like he's dead. But I always say, it's the family that got left behind. You know, that's like, that's a long time to live without your partner.
Since you mentioned that, widows do better than widowers.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah. The guys, they just kind of fall apart. Women, they can serve.
Like if their female partner dies before them, they don't last as long as women last when their male partner dies.
Yes.
It's so sad. Anyway, okay, so
men are more likely to, and this is that short end of the stick thing,
right?
More likely to die of suicide. They die in accidents more. Yeah. So even as boys, it's not just simply older guys. Like boys die more than girls in terms of accidents. They die more from drug abuse. Of course, they die more in wars. And they die in dangerous jobs. They tend to, choose these types of jobs. They're physically capable to choose those types of jobs. So, but interestingly, you have more deadly chronic diseases as a man. Heart disease, stroke, and diabetes, these kinds of things are far more common in a guy versus a woman. But women actually have more overall chronic disease like arthritis and depression. It's just not as fatal.
Right. So they're more like debilitating versus deadly.
Deadly, exactly, for the guy.
Yeah.
Right. So it's tough being a guy. It's tough.
It is. And then of course there's reasons for that. The men are obviously situation. Okay. So a lot of those causative factors are situational. Men are more likely to be the firefighters, the policemen, the military, etc. But then there's also just their relationship with their own health.
They don't want to go to the doctor.
They don't want to go to the doctor. They don't want to get it looked at. In fact, I had a really cute, he was such a great guy. He passed away, but he passed away much older. Anyways, he would come in with his wife, and his wife was just like super vibrant. And I would say, when's your turn? When are you going to come in and get some hormone replacement? He eventually did get on testosterone. It helped him quite a bit. But he would say, I do not want to go to the doctor. Every time I go to the doctor, they find something wrong with me. I thought that was funny. I was like, yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah, it's, we say men have this special gland called the denial gland, wrapped around their neck. And it's true. Guys don't want to know, or they don't want to maybe deal with that or face it. And women, on the other hand, are usually very, very open to facing it. And then we'll probably get into, not quite yet, but that maybe they're diseases that they're kind of coming up with are probably more than what might even be there. So the pendulum
Of
kind of
course,
swings maybe
right.
in the other direction.
That's right. That's right. And part of it is that men really aren't trained to see the doctor.
Right.
We've looked this up a little bit about pediatricians. Technically, a pediatrician can see someone up to the age of 21, I think, depending. But that's not usually what's true. I think that it really ends up on the relationship between the parent, usually the mom,
Mhm.
the son,
Mhm.
and the doctor on whether or not a male after the age of 16
Yeah.
continues to be seen. So if
Why?
you're
Because the girl starts to have her period, so she's going to go in also to see the
then you start
OBGYN.
seeing an
Yeah,
OB-GYN.
but
That's right. But
the
what do men
guy,
do?
when he's got
Nothing
nothing,
until
he's
they
got
have a
nothing wrong,
problem.
right? Yeah, early on. Mhm.
So there's no smooth transition. It's like I'm a kid, so my doctor's checking on me, and then I'm dying.
Yep.
What happened to all the
Yeah,
years in
there's nothing in
between?
between, right? Yeah. Well, and that's part of what we're doing here. It's wellness is proactive.
Uh-huh.
It's engaging
That's
in
right.
your health and understanding your health, and that it is an actual process that you need to engage with, versus just saying I'm sitting around and waiting until I'm a train wreck, and then I'll deny, and
Yeah.
then eventually, once my leg is rotting off, I guess I'll go to the
Yeah.
doctor.
And men would probably live longer and with more wellness if they didn't just practice disease management, if they actually practice, like you're saying, medical prevention.
Yeah. I don't know why are guys not. I mean, what's going on? What's going on deep down inside, socially, whatever, with guys, and why they're not going to the doctor? I mean,
Well,
they don't want to seem like they're weak.
yeah, I mean, men, at least culturally, we could say that's the American culture, but I think it's probably many cultures across the world, if not all of them. Men are not supposed to say this hurts or that hurts or I'm feeling a problem. That's not the way men communicate even with each other, right?
Yeah, it's for sure. If you've got a problem, a guy is usually going to try to. Your friend calls you out on it. When women get together, they have to announce their own problem.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So they're used to, even in a social setting, to stand up and say, "I have this problem," and you announce
Yeah.
it.
They're encouraged to self-deprecate. They're
right.
encouraged to say, "Oh, I've got droopy eyelids."
Right.
Whereas men
Guys
are
don't do that,
encouraged to
no.
boast and
Right.
say, "I don't have droopy eyelids. I
Right.
can't see you, but that's because
Right.
I've
But-
got heavy eyelids."
But your friend's going to say, "Hey, droopy eye.
Yeah.
Hey.
Right, droopy eye,
Right.
yeah.
He's going to call you out on
Yeah.
it. So it's just a different dynamic. Yeah, I really think that gynecological thing. I mean, women just they're initiated.
They're initiated.
They're literally initiated with having a
Mhm.
period, becoming a woman that way. Guys have to go through their own sort of pain and trials. It's very different, and I guess that process doesn't necessarily translate to saying I should go to the doctor. I mean, it should, but
Right. And women will have first their periods, then pregnancies, and then
Mhm.
menopause.
even earrings. Getting earrings as a young girl is part of the initiatory
right.
process of becoming a woman. There's all these things that they go through physically,
Yeah.
that they go through, but they don't, in society at large, we don't, at least in our society, we don't have enough of those ritualistic things for young boys. There can be, I mean, hunting and other things that are a part of that for young boys. Boy Scouts, things like that can be part of it, but it's not as ready made. It's automatic. If you're a girl, you're going to get your period. I mean,
Right.
99% of the time, that's going to happen for you.
And if you don't, that's reason to go to the doctor too.
Right, exactly. There you
Yeah.
go. Perfect.
I mean, I think it's a good point. We need to return to some of these ideas of initiation for men so that we can really encourage men to be more wellness minded so that they can age more gracefully. I mean, I know you don't love that expression, but so that men have an opportunity
I don't like
to
the
check
word.
in.
I don't like gracefully.
I thought you didn't love the idea of aging gracefully.
I'm okay being graceful with aging.
You're very
Versus what?
graceful.
Versus just like taking it away. Like
No, just I don't know.
No
versus,
aging.
I don't know. I don't know why I thought that then.
maybe you're thinking about the where I don't like when we talk about like happiness and in order to be fulfilled, you have to be happy. And I say that there's pain.
Yeah.
It's more focused on the pain.
Well, even that. I mean, that's a sign of needing initiation.
Yeah.
And that's what men need.
Men gravitate towards that. They want
Mhm.
to find meaning in life through some type of painful trial.
Right.
What was the thing that, you pushed yourself through and you got some scar tissue from the process and you came out on the other side.
Yeah.
That's where value comes in with guys. It's what have they, the value is in their experience. Women have value in ways their lack of experience, their purity is what they're holding on to, that they're unscathed. Guys, they have to be scathed.
Right.
If not, they don't have any value.
Well, that's part of the things that prepares them for those more dangerous jobs, et cetera. Is that process of becoming warrior is healing for the man if they have been prepared to do it. But what's happening, according to our statistics, is that men are not being trained to discuss the trials and tribulations of living a manly life. They're meant to just do it on their own, not speak about it. And then before you know it, they're dealing with chronic illness. That's wrong. If you're in battle and you get injured, you get medical attention. But there's battles all the time in regular life for men, but they're not taught to get attention.
Yeah, when I think about that for myself, I've always been engaged in my health, let's say, since the age of 18. I've been engaged in my own health, understanding it, being aware of it, learning about it, self-learning about it, improving myself where I think I could, out of a sense of pride, out of a sense of self-esteem.
Well, it's also been an intellectual curiosity for you and a passion. I mean, those things, the pride and the self-esteem for you have come because you've had an innate interest in that notion of healthy manliness.
I mean, I just think that it's such an important part of life. I think of being a guy. Andrew Tate, I'm going to quote Andrew Tate. I heard him saying, you got, no matter what, you should train. A guy should train.
Right.
He's talking about exercise.
I like
he said,
things he says.
It doesn't matter what. If you're going through a lot of, trials and tribulations, train. If you're not, train.
Right.
No matter what you're going through, make sure you're
ready.
Physically, exactly.
You're ready.
Because that's what it's about.
Yeah.
It's about being ready no matter what at any time and no matter what you're going through.
And that's not what's happening to men. So we're seeing that men are having these voids of initiation. They're not ready. And then they're going to lift a suitcase for a young girl in the aisle. I know it's happened to me many times. And I think that old man wasn't stronger than I was at the moment, but God, thank you. Please buy it. I'm not one to interrupt chivalry, that. But I think, damn, now that old guy pulled his shoulder. He's not going to tell anybody. And it was all because he hasn't been ready to do it. He wasn't training. He wasn't prepared. He wasn't getting medical attention, whatever, attention to his body, attention to his wellness. Women, on the other hand.
No. So women go to the doctor more.
Yeah. But there's a downside to that.
Well, and this is this is the biggest thing for me in this whole discussion. Women are overdiagnosed.
Yeah.
I think they're overdiagnosed.
Yeah.
And that's because they're willing. I always say, a guy will come in, he's bleeding out of his eyes and go, oh, should I come to the doctor? He's not saying anything. You're trying to dig the symptoms out of him. A woman, she's going to come in and she's going to have a book. She's the one that will bring the folder in and say, here's all of my doctors, here's all my labs, and here's everything. And she's going to explain what's going on with her with detail.
Yeah.
Now, I always say I'd rather have that in a way because I can work with that. But it is true that I think, any doctor wants to be helpful. So if somebody comes in, a woman goes, I have this, and they want to be able to hand them something.
I mean, it's helpful when the patient is self-intuitive. It's also helpful when the patient is a good historian.
Well, look, 1 in 4 women are being treated or on medications for depression, anxiety, ADHD, and any other mental disorder.
Yeah.
1 in 4 in the US. With men, it's 15%. So 1.5 in 10 guys are on some kind of medication like that. So it's way more common in women to have. Now, is it more common that they actually have the mental disorder? That's maybe up to debate. At least it is in my mind. That it isn't necessarily mental disorder as much as it is their personalities that are maybe being viewed as a disorder, as a problem.
Or other issues that are being misdiagnosed. But the point is, there's a much more frequent diagnosis for women than there are for men.
Oh yeah.
And that's also true because this is interesting. I know we want to talk about this idea of women and their mood. But I want to point out that this is also an issue with pap smears. This is also an issue with mammograms. This is also an issue with biopsies. I mean, that's perhaps a post in and of itself, the idea that when we are doing this frequency of testing for many reasons, political, financial, the insurances, whatever, they're having to justify all this testing. And there are problems with that. It's like you were saying about the colonoscopy, about all the potential side effects of having a colonoscopy versus the incidence of significant findings.
Yes.
Right? In Europe, they're adjusting the frequency of mammograms because they're finding all the problems associated with frequent mammograms is greater than the problems diagnosed through frequent mammograms,
Right. The radiation to the breast tissue,
right?
The compression, all those things that could be more damaging. Yes.
Than what we're actually saving.
Yeah. It would be in an ideal world, because I always say too, I mean, look, on my end, I like to test, and a lot of it is blood tests with my patients. I guess it's just that it's all in how you're using those tests and to what level you're treating.
And how invasive the test is.
Right. And then how invasive the treatment would be, because most of the time it's about, well, this is awareness.
Yeah.
It's to empower the patient mentally and emotionally about what's going on with their health, versus saying, well, now I necessarily have to do something. Or if we're doing something, it's an intervention that's about their lifestyle. Not necessarily saying a pill per se, or it's something where if it is a pill, often for us, it's nutritional and those types of things in its approach. But if someone's getting a frequent, back to your point you said about pap smears lead to very often to unnecessary treatment.
Right.
Based on the result of the test looking as if it is potentially, maybe, kind of could be precancerous. We don't know. But let's go do the treatment.
Well, and the treatments have many problems associated with them, often.
Scarring to the cervix, because it's called a colposcopy. It's additional testing that continues to potentially make problems, when in the end, if they had done nothing, and this is what some studies have shown, had you done nothing and retested, it would show that those cells do not look precancerous. Or
had taken less invasive therapies like suppositories. And I mean, there's, well, that's a whole different conversation. There's so many protocols for a lot of these things that we are aggressively cutting out.
Right. But I think it's to the point of are women being overdiagnosed with all kinds of things? And the answer
is yes.
They are, not maybe necessarily by their own complaining, but it's because of how the system sort of takes those complaints or concerns and takes it maybe in a direction it didn't need to go into.
Right. Which is kind of the point here about mental and emotional treatments like anxiety and depression for women. Why are emotions a disease? Why? Sometimes they are.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be very clear here. Like, by no means is this supposed to be arrogantly dismissing true clinical depression, anxiety, etc. But we work with thyroid all day long, and thyroid problems can present with anxiety or dysthymia, like low-grade feeling blue, etc. And it's treated by correcting the thyroid,
easily correctable,
which is a hormone deficiency that needs to be corrected anyways.
Right.
But it's almost like we're not allowed to feel blue. I mean, I say that to you on a regular, I don't know. I don't know, babe. I just feel kind of like melancholy.
I think that's important for men to allow women to feel. I think it's important for men to understand and remember that part of what they're turned on by women is a little bit of that crazy. That's part of it. They think that she's crazy. It's upsetting me. I don't understand why she's thinking that way. I'm thinking very logically. So why the hell is she thinking that way? No, that's part of the turn on.
Yeah.
What men want to do is to go in that boat into the tempest.
Right.
They want to go into the storm. That's what they want.
To survive it.
Yeah, it's romantic. I mean, that's what men want. So if they're doing it out there, in the Downeaster Alexa.
Hero. Think about that. And I think it's important for women to be okay with it being thought of.
I don't think you heard what I just said there. I said the Downeaster Alexa. Do you know what that is?
From a song?
It's, the Billy Joel song.
Yeah.
The Downeaster Alexa. It's a really cool song.
It is a good song. I love Billy Joel.
Yeah. And it's really like, that's a very sort of manly, romantic concept of going out into the wild of the ocean.
Yeah.
And, going and getting some fish, or just simply going into the storm. That's what women are. They're the storm. They're the tempest.
Yeah.
And guys want that. They just forget that that's sometimes, because it's annoying sometimes. So they forget that that's actually what they want.
Yeah, it's annoying. I mean, it's annoying female to female. It's annoying, when you have that sibling or that adolescent child or that girlfriend who's like, oh my God. I mean, yeah, it's annoying, but women, what I was saying is that women have to be okay with it being seen as a little bit crazy, because it's about the intensity and volatility of our emotion, which means, how do you get that intense good? How do you get that intense joy? How do you get that extreme passion if you don't also get the feeling blue and the little nervous? And I mean, part of the reason why women have anxiety is because they're thinking about so many things at the same time. And they're the ones managing all those things.
And if they're supported by someone around them that understands that, then they can, go whirl around in the tempest for a little while. It's okay.
But you do need the partner, and you do need the practitioner, the health professional who's going to listen to that and help you decide. Like, I will say to people when they say, "Oh, I'm having anxiety." Okay, well, does it feel appropriate to the stressors in your life? Women will know. I think women will usually know. Like, I am suffering from something that feels disproportionate to how my life is going, versus I'm really struggling with all the things on my plate. Those are two different concepts, right?
Yeah. I was thinking, what is this sort of history of why women feel this way?
Well, when you say history, it sounds like...
Look, I was an English major.
Yeah.
Some people know I was an English major. And I remember actually learning in undergrad about the concept of hysteria. Hysterectomy, hyst meaning the uterus.
Yes.
And that was years ago. And
hysteria and hysterectomy.
Yeah.
Hysterical.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that has been in literature and all. Particularly, we were studying 19th century literature and talking about that women would swoon and those kinds of things. They would say in literature, for a woman to be when they would have an orgasm, they would die.
Yes,
they died.
That sounds great.
That was code for orgasm. But it wasn't even just code, because they didn't really have the word orgasm. And so, but anyway, some of this hysteria concept, it goes back. This is like Hippocrates stuff. It goes back a long time.
This is kind of my point about men and health practitioners being okay with the woman's moods, and women being okay talking about it, because the hysteria is also connected to the idea of orgasm.
Right. Well, because that's even Hippocrates, Galen, they knew what the treatment was for the hysteria. There was a good orgasm. There was sex. Go get yourself some good sex. So a lot of times and this certainly, coming back to the 19th century literature, that was part of the problem.
Right.
That there was that sort of Victorian notion of women not being able to fully get what they needed.
Well, they weren't allowed to express themselves.
Right. Not even potentially in the bedroom.
Right.
So guess what they did?
They saw the doctor.
The
good doctor.
The good doctor. And they realized that they needed to go and get what was it called? A hysterical paroxysm. That would have been the term for an orgasm.
Yeah. So spasm of
in
the
the
uterus.
19th century, in the late 1800s.
Yes.
No, excuse me, even mid 1800s. They were going to the doctor to have a release, to have an orgasm induced by the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And so much so that that became very popular.
Yes.
And they were literally lining up around the block to have this treatment done. And the poor doctor had problems with his hands.
Yeah, he got like carpal tunnel.
Yeah. You imagine the lineup of that? And then it was all very serious and just, yes, you need to, please, assume the position
Right.
and we're going to help you out.
Yes.
And,
and obviously, again, this was like, this is assumed to be consensual. This is like,
oh no, of course.
I'm going for this
I'm going
special treatment.
Special treatment. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you,
of course,
good
we can
doctor.
put our modern cynic behind it. But to a certain extent, they genuinely believed this was the medical release that you needed.
And that's because it was medically what they needed.
Well,
It just would have been
medically what we need.
Right. It just should have been with their partner, I would say, ideally. But anyway, the doctor, so much so that they would, most people are right-handed. They would use their right hand in order to help induce this release, and their hand would start to get tired. So they would use their left hand, and then they would say, "Nah,
not as good.
That wasn't good.
No,
you weren't as good with the
You're
left
not
hand."
ambidextrous,
right? So this actually led to
the patients
invention.
wanted their money back.
Yeah. So they needed something to relieve the poor doctors.
And it led to the invention of
the vibrator.
The vibrator.
That's where the vibrator comes from.
And this is how the road led to the vibrator, as you said.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Isn't that great?
I love who invented that.
What was his name? He's got a name.
I don't know. Yeah,
I have notes here.
Put it on there. I don't know, but it's great.
Whatever. His name
George
is
Taylor.
Oh, I was going to say Hero. He was a hero.
That's so. Oh, that was quite the laugh. 1869, the invention of the vibrator. Brilliant. Mm-hmm. That's so good.
Mm-hmm. So,
and it's still indicated today.
now fast forward, people are using these devices, sexually, and learned all kinds of things about themselves. That's one thing, we talk about that, and back to, not on this podcast, but we had mentioned before in another clip about a patient or a prospective patient who had just sent or actually I would just say a fan, someone that heard us on our podcast and was talking about her issues with sex. I don't know where I was going with that. I just lost what I was thinking.
Was she using a vibrator?
Oh no, that's what it was. Thank you. About understanding yourself. And I do think that people need to experiment.
Sure.
And that's a lot of times what I'm telling patients to do. If they're having issues with their partner, sometimes they have to experiment with themselves so they understand themselves so they can communicate with their partner.
Right.
Right. Good sex is about good communication, we always say. So if you're not saying what it is that you like, then your partner can't help you. But if you don't know what you like because you haven't discovered that yet, perhaps on your own, then
or even together. I mean, it's about an openness. Like
absolutely,
you gotta.
But sometimes they're in a position where they can't do it with the partner. They haven't gotten to that point yet, or there's some kind of block in the relationship that doesn't allow that. So, and they're still saying, "Hey, I want to have sex in some way." So, being okay with the idea of taking care of things yourself or being used to yourself, I think, just helps with that whole communication process.
Well, and there is also some connection between, I was going to say masturbation, but I guess that's not necessarily true. It's just clitoral stimulation and appropriate releases, orgasms, and UTIs. Like there's an increase of urinary infection. Yeah. There can be an increase of urinary infection in females that are like not cleaning the pipes.
Yes.
And a lot of times that needs to come from clitoral stimulation. It can't just come from vaginal penetration.
Yes.
So, I mean,
because that's releasing there's the skin glands and the different glands.
You got to like clean that out.
Yeah. And the analogy to that would be with men. Again, there's a certain number of ejaculations. If guys are able to, I'm trying to remember, I think it's 20 per month, at least 20 per month, their risk for prostate cancer virtually goes down to zero, just based on ejaculation with a level of frequency because you're cleaning the pipes.
Right. So
it is a medical treatment.
It's a medical treatment.
We're literally saying sex is medicine. We've known this for a long time.
Well, and we've been saying that for so long, not just because of the relationship for mental and emotional awareness, but now you're really seeing here with these statistics that this is a truly indicated method of managing mood so that you don't get hysterical.
That's so great. I'm going to go with that. The next time I'm going to say, I want you to get hysterical.
I mean, look, Yeah. Let's see what happens if you. That's like telling me to relax.
Yeah, right. Oh, or yeah, it's saying, are you on your period?
Yeah. What is it?
You're having your
It's
period?
hormonal stuff.
You having some hormonal stuff?
Good God.
That's not good. That never goes over well.
No, that doesn't go over well.
No.
All right.
So look, hysteria as an actual, because it was a diagnosis, it was finally removed from the DSM.
1980.
1980, they finally said, let's take that out of there. That's an antiquated term, hysteria. But I mean, really now in hindsight and looking into this more, I mean, it wasn't that inaccurate conceptually. It was just they realized, let's get some better terms here to the various things.
Well, this is the thing about that I think what they did do well was that they recognized, no, there are very real mental health disorders. Like this talks about major depression,
bipolar,
panic disorder, bipolar. Those are real things. They needed to be codified. They needed to be explored and treated because that's very real suffering.
Right.
But what wasn't replaced is a modern day relationship with the idea of how sexual release does re-regulate a female's mood. That's not in there.
We should probably try to get it put in there. Huh?
I think we should.
Okay. What else about this and women? Look, women do they have some form of this hysteria. Again, for whatever word we want to use. But there's some social things that just continue to push back on this idea of that there's something wrong with a woman having all of these various emotions, and sort of being a kettle full of emotions. I just don't think that's necessarily a problem. And I think this harkens to the idea that men and women are just different.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's to be celebrated.
Yes. And there's certain aspects, let's say, of the feminist movement that's trying to take away the differences between men and women. There's this egalitarian kind of approach that we're all equal in every aspect, about, let's say, personality and preferences and those kind of things, job preferences, all of that, that it isn't true.
And it's ironic because I don't think people actually recognize that is being ushered by the modern feminist movement. I think people have a very mistaken impression that that's actually male dominance, suppression of the female. But when you really look at the historical landmarks of eliminating femininity, it's coming from women. And that's just a terrible disservice to each other. We really should be celebrating our moods and our mood fluctuations because, as we've said, you take the good, you take the bad, and take them both, and there you have.
Facts of life. The facts of life.
Yeah, that was a good song.
I knew it. Okay.
And also talk about this contagious mental illness, because that's so bananas.
There was a thing that was happening on TikTok with young girls getting Tourette's syndrome from just watching I think it started off with like legitimate people with Tourette's, the tics, whether verbal Tourette's or physical Tourette's, and then watching videos of that on TikTok. And then it literally created a trend, a contagious trend of more young girls getting Tourette's.
Presenting with Tourette's. But it was not. It was false.
It was false.
Yeah.
Now they were having something was happening.
Right. Meaning it wasn't that the girls were like purposely like twitching as if they had a Tourette.
They were getting.
It was happening to them. But it was almost like a subconscious copycat.
Yes.
Well, that's like the vocal fry, remember?
Oh, yeah.
How does that even spread? Or I can also say, I was critiquing this several years ago when it seems like there was a trend for everybody on social media to suffer from postpartum depression. Again, a very real condition.
Look, there's studies,
but it became a trend.
Absolutely. There was a study in May 2024, 714,000 Finnish people. They found that having a classmate diagnosed with a mental disorder increases the chances that other students in that class will also be diagnosed with a mental disorder. Just by being around them.
Right, by knowing that a peer had been diagnosed.
Yeah, so some of it is like, yes, we say awareness is good. Awareness is good.
Awareness is good.
It has goodness to it, but it has its potential if we over-aware. things, if that's even a term.
Yeah.
The idea of too much awareness makes a sort of, I don't know, there's a certain type of normality to it, versus saying, hey, this is just a thing, and it doesn't necessarily mean that everyone should have that or accept it.
And these things are all more common in women.
It's it's specifically found in younger women,
in
and
younger females.
young girls
Right.
will have this issue of this contagious mental
Right.
illness more so than even boys. And we were talking before about the Salem witch trials.
Right.
The Salem witch trials, as they've studied this and talked about this historically for so long, that we know in part it was sort of lies and things, and that those girls started having their own,
Yeah, they like
whatever
got caught up
yeah,
in
get
caught up in the game, so to
yes,
say,
yeah.
which had very severe consequences.
Yeah, death, people dying. It was pretty severe.
And the thing is that part of this is because we have created a world where severe illness comes with social credit, but normal mood swings are pathology.
Yeah, right, exactly.
It's so,
yeah.
I mean,
It's
people who are
upsetting.
suffering with serious illness don't celebrate that. That's not, I mean, they rise to the occasion.
Yes.
They do what they have to do. And thankfully we have that awareness. So there's more social services, et cetera, more acceptance, more support. But at the same time, normal mood swings have to become some sort of a severe illness.
Patients can
Doesn't make
identify
sense.
with their illness. And
It becomes their identity.
It becomes their identity. I've seen it many, many times.
Right.
You know, when you're truly trying to change, you're trying to radically change the nervous system, your perspective on things, how others in your circle see you, and because based on your identity. So I've seen patients get really, really close to healing, and they pull back.
Yeah.
They pull back because now that illness that they've had for so
Right.
long, that's garnered them attention
Right.
with their spouse, attention with their entire
And
family, their
permission.
kids. Yeah, right, exactly. Permission to feel a certain way. And
Behave
then
a
you take
certain
that
way.
away, then they think, well, hell, now what? What am
Right.
I supposed to be? If suddenly I'm here and you heal
Yeah.
me and I take, now who am I supposed to
Right.
be?
And again, this is more common with women. We see this a lot in fibromyalgia. Fibromyalgia was promoted or advertised, or I'm not quite sure what the right words are, but any commercials, for example, that had to do with fibromyalgia medications, it was always women, 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 women.
Most
And
mental health types of medications
are like advertised. They're targeted to the
women.
female. And again, that's, oh, I feel blue. No, you don't feel blue. You're depressed.
Yeah, right.
Oh, well, maybe that person does have depression, and that's a serious thing. But maybe they're just blue, or maybe they have low blood sugar, so their mood gets a little bit wonky. Like we've taken away.
Or maybe that you're depressed, but it's okay to go through that season. You know, there's,
if it's a season, right? I mean, again, there's major depression, and then there's that.
But if we just say, the moment we feel that way and we immediately go seek an answer, then you're going to get the answer, and because you're going to get the pill.
Yeah.
I mean,
an answer versus a discussion.
Right.
I mean, I think if you're not sure, talk about it, ask about it, but it's our responsibility as the patient and our responsibility as the support team and our responsibility as the physician to discuss it and say, well, you know.
I've said that to patients before, to female patients, and just said, well, yeah, I mean, it's okay that you're feeling this way. And they've never had somebody say to them that it was okay that they were feeling that way. That, no, this is okay. Because they're used to it just being, whether through society or maybe some of the other doctors they've seen, that there was automatically a pathology. You should always feel the same way at all times.
I feel like that's pathology.
That is, right. Well, that's.
I mean, I can't imagine me being like that.
We were just talking about that this morning, that in psychopathy, you have these lines in your face. If you're not over Botoxed, you would naturally have these lines in your face that show empathy,
right? Because
you're looking at someone with, you're raising your eyebrows, and raising eyebrows that's also sort of this contagious thing, because it's showing empathy. I'd raise my eyebrows, you'd raise your eyebrows. We're talking, and we're feeling one another in the midst of the conversation. We're communicating and communing. And so you get these natural lines in the face, but people who have psychopathy don't have those lines in their face. If they are truly psychopathic, they have no ability for empathy, and they've been that way for years, so they don't develop that line. Isn't that amazing?
You know, that's like that. I think it's the Indigo Girls that have that song that says, "Every new experience, another line on your beautiful face." I always thought that was such a pretty way of seeing lines, especially in a world where wrinkles are thought of as ugly.
Right.
I just
Well, laugh lines. I mean,
think
they're actually called
they're called
laugh lines because you spend time laughing.
Yeah.
You spend time enjoying
I think that's
life.
great.
It doesn't mean that we might not want to correct those things. Don't get me wrong. Whatever that might mean for someone.
But your relationship with them is what's important, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah.
And also, so many females are being diagnosed on mental illness, not by a mental health practitioner. And I think that's an extremely important point, that psychiatrists are trained to determine whether or not this is a physiologic issue, like, maybe your thyroid is the problem, or maybe your
low
sex
blood
hormones
sugar.
are low.
Low blood sugar.
Or you have low blood sugar.
So incredibly common.
Versus, no, this is major depression or something else. Maybe it's not depression at all. I mean, I'm not well versed enough in that to speak on it unless it's hormone related, the nuances, I guess. I mean,
I think this was a fantastic episode. I think we went through a lot. I think we've summarized that men and women definitely have their own differences in terms of health outcomes and why they go to the doctor or why they don't. We encourage men to go to the doctor more and women to allow themselves to be women.
Amen.
Amen. And definitely, there's the big amen. Sex is a reason and a cure for how you're feeling.
Because all roads lead back to sex. Summarize it, babe. Tell them what's really important here. Have orgasm.
Get Nike on it and just do it.
Wow.
You like that? We make that a new, I think Nike would be upset if we made that a new tagline.
I don't know.
About sex. Get Nike on it and just do it. No.
I don't like it.
No.
But I like the idea of do it. Do it. Give it to me, Sheldon. How about that one?
Are you liking what you're hearing? Do you want to hear more?
Do
you want others to benefit from this great content? Do you want to ask us a question? Please like, subscribe, share, comment. You can find links to all of our social media channels and all of our featured articles and basically everything right on our link tree at Longevity Protocol Pod. If you want a little bit more about our personal lives, be sure to follow us on Instagram at The Sex Docs. Here's where you can comment, ask questions that we'll directly address in our videos. Be sure to subscribe to our Substack, where there's far more information, protocols. All of our notes are there on Substack about longevity, health, and everything we do here for the podcast. And finally, if you're ready to make a change in your health and you want to see us as a new patient right here in Scottsdale, Arizona, please inquire through our private practice at hormone-zone.com.